Hi there, I'm Matt Vickery, and this is Scraps, a radiology simulator for medical students rotating on the diagnostic radiology rotation. The problem that we're trying to counteract is that traditionally the experience in diagnostic radiology for medical students has been passive. When I went through it about a decade ago, it was a lot of shadowing behind radiologists. So this is the medical student here. Just watching somebody who knows a lot more than you go about their day. There's a few lectures thrown in and a little bit of a quiz at the end. This is pretty much the experience nationwide, and in 2014 there was a white paper that was published in the Journal of the American College of Radiology calling for the need for curricular innovation and reform to the way that rotations work for medical students. They extol the virtues of a focus beyond passive learning that had been the mainstay of this rotation. I think a useful lens that we can consider the problem through is cognitivism, and specifically the model of experiential learning popularized by Kolb. This is a diagram that I adapted from Kolb, who adapted the concept from Lewin. It ultimately comes from electrical engineering, but the idea that we have concrete experiences and those, through reflecting on that experience, create concepts that we can then test again in real life, and we can iterate on that cycle and get better at something. The problem with passive learning is that we don't get a lot of opportunity for concrete experience or for testing the implications of changes to the concepts that guide us. Simulation can provide for those concrete experiences for medical students in a safe and controlled environment. Here's a whirlwind tour of the research of the past 45 years. The objective structured clinical examination came on the scene in 1970s England to replace just turning medical students loose on the wards and testing them based on what they'd done. It was found that it could be adapted to radiology, and further, that it could be used in both a formative and summative setting. As radiology transitioned to the digital age, it was found that computers can help, but as in many things, computers and humans working together is better than either alone. More recently, large meta-analyses show that there are various subjective and objective benefits, which led to the creation of multi-million-dollar learning labs to allow for this sort of experience. To synthesize, simulation and the active experience it provides is valued and effective. Can it be applied to the medical student radiology rotation? We think yes, and this is where our project comes in. We call it Scraps. It's a self-contained, radiologist-administered PACS simulator. This is the setup, which uses a consumer-grade laptop and runs freeware PACS, which is open source and found on the internet. We can load whatever cases we want on for the lesson at hand, and the medical students can interact with them just as a radiologist would in the workroom. They use Microsoft Word for real-time dictation, and the entire system is screen mirrored so that the facilitator can follow along. We collect quality feedback for the experience via an online platform. This is what the system looks like, in this case set up in my home office. In a real classroom setting, we have, instead of duplicating it just on a computer monitor, it can be duplicated via projector up on a big screen at the front of the room. This is a close-up of the interface. We have whatever images we want to load in here, with the medical students being able to interact with them just as a radiologist would. The mouse does the same things as it would in the reading room. Previous research has shown that it's important and valued for systems like this to interact with the images like a real radiologist does. And part of that is both the function of the PACS as well as being able to verbally dictate the findings into a template, just like they see when they're shadowing radiologists in the real clinical environment. We ask the standard sorts of quality feedback questions about the activity that one might expect, and these are recapped on the next page with the results. Our preliminary results are shown here. The major shortfall of this pilot is the small number of students we were able to put through, just 6 before coronavirus put a stop to our in-person medical student rotation. But that said, we have cause for optimism here. All the students agreed or strongly agreed that they enjoyed the activity, that it was unique and valuable to their education. Of note also, they have not had the opportunity to use dictation software or use PACS like this elsewhere in their curriculum. Overall, feedback's been very positive, and we've got plans to restart with the in-person rotation restarting in June. This is obviously a small pilot, but we're optimistic. One of the big advantages of the Scraps platform is its flexibility. Obviously, for this first trial, we used relatively basic cases just to give medical students a chance to work in a PACS-like environment. But you could use much more advanced cases for attending fellow or resident level training as well. A few closing thoughts on the entrepreneurial mindset. One of the big factors at play here is creating value. One of those papers I referred to earlier talked about the creation of a learning lab, which is great if you have $10 million, but necessity being the mother of invention, we found a way to make a PAC station run on a consumer laptop for basically 10% of the price. Another factor at play here was building a team, talking to the relevant stakeholders. Dr. Joe Budovec, there on the right, is the director of the medical student rotation. We were able to find and address various shortfalls that we could work on. Doctors Lanzer and Pierce are two of our residents who have a lot of teaching background, and the idea of having residents facilitate these sessions, I think, is a great opportunity to work teaching into the resident curriculum for the benefit of both medical students and the residents. All right. Thanks a lot. That's Scraps. Sorry about running overtime.